On Look Today. Well, finally, Election Day is here. So we're going to close out the election season with some thoughts by the three candidates running for the 21st Congressional District. I've got details. And a neighborhood watch may be coming to the city of Saratoga Springs. More on that coming up. And we spoke to a number of residents about what they think about the voting process. I've got those details. It's all ahead on Look Today. Welcome everyone, I'm Jay Hood Jackson and this is Look Today. Well, in tonight's program, I sit down with Drew Calley. He's a spiritual medium. He's here to talk about his unique gifts and an upcoming event that's happening at Universal Preservation Hall. I also sit down with Marty Vanix. He's the president of the Saratoga County Prosperity Partnership, and he's here to talk about a very important economic summit that's happening this Thursday, November 10th. Plus, we've got your weather for the Tri-North counties. But first, these headline stories. Well, in our lead story, believe it or not, today is Election Day. So make sure you get out and vote. Now, the polls are open until 9 p.m. tonight. It's important to exercise your right to vote as a citizen in this democracy. And on a local level, this is especially true. Now, there are very viable candidates from different parties that you can choose for Assembly, Congress, and State Senate. Now, for example, each candidate running for the 21st Congressional District had a slightly different priority in the recent debate that we televised. Incumbent Congresswoman Republican Elise Stefanik, and it is really a champion of local businesses. And here's what she said.
I've kept my promises from my first campaign, setting the standard for transparency, accessibility, and the courage to put forth new legislative solution when it comes to advocating on behalf of our small businesses, when it comes to advocating on behalf of our next generation, our young people, when it comes to fighting for our veterans and ensuring they get access to the benefits that they have earned. I will continue working my very hardest for you every single day.
One of her opponents, Mike Derrick, who's running on the Democratic ticket, is a veteran and a teacher, and he relates to his constituents on a very personal level.
Get the money out of politics, provide for a living wage, and reform our our tax system, and we will be able to grapple with the difficult issues we face, like investing in jobs and infrastructure in the North Country, like protecting our environment, like ensuring our national security, like investing in our children through education.
Now, Matt Funicello, the Green Party candidate, comes from a working-class background, and he sees the district at a very grassroots level.
Let's elect someone who believes in single-payer health care, who believes in a living wage, somebody who believes in peace and a peace dividend. And that person on this stage is not Elise Stefanik, and it's not Mike Derrick, it's me.
I have to admit, of all the races we covered, the congressional one was particularly exciting. Now, in other news, the city of Saratoga Springs is relatively a safe place. However, there are some within the city that believe that Saratoga could be and should be a safer place. Well, the Saratoga County Chamber of Commerce, along with the police department and downtown business administration, are taking proactive measures to deter high crime rates. Well, we spoke to Todd Shimkus. He's the president of the Saratoga County Chamber of Commerce.
We have a safe, livable, walkable, great downtown, vibrant, but we want to make sure it stays that way. So we want to multiply the number of people that are out there helping the police to identify anything that might be headed in the wrong direction, whether it's graffiti or things that they may see or hear. We want to make sure there's good communication, a good reporting system, people know what to do. You know, in this day and age with cell phones, should you be taking a picture or a video, or should you be making a phone call? I mean, answering simple questions like that so that people know what to do when they see something, so that the police can take appropriate action.
We want to make you aware that on Monday, November 14, there will be a workshop to generate ideas about creating a possible neighborhood watch, and that's open to the public. And we spoke to Todd about this.
We're hosting this workshop on November 14th, which is a Monday, from 5 to 6 o'clock. The Chamber and the DBA are hosting it together with the City Police. The police will be there, in fact, to help and advise people on what their expectations are for volunteers, and we'll be there to help with the facilitation.
Switching from news to weather. Well, today saw warmer temperatures with a lot of sunshine. Let's see how the week is shaping up. For a more detailed look at our weather, we're going to head to the Glens Falls Weather Center for a look at your first forecast. Back to the news. Well, a little more election news here. As you know, going out to vote is extremely important, and this presidential election campaign has been extremely contentious, to say the least. Well, this particular campaign makes people question our political process. So we asked a lot of people in Saratoga Springs what they thought about the process and what it means to them. And we're going to give you just a couple of samples. We spoke to Matt McCabe. He's a small business owner, Saratoga Guitar.
Well, you know, I actually held public office for a little while, and I won by a very small margin. And the numbers do make a difference, and the participation makes a difference. So exercise the right. It's worth having.
Now, we wanted to get even more perspective on what other business owners thought. So we also spoke to Sam McCullough. She's the owner of Stinky Dog.
If you don't vote, someone else will vote and make a decision for you. And it's never good to put really your decision in someone else's hands.
Boy, is that ever true. You know what? We also spoke to a number of residents on the street about this year's election and what they thought about the voting process. Boy, did we get a bunch of answers. We're only going to give you a sample here, but we spoke to Steve Burke.
We're in a predominantly Democratic state, so everybody says it doesn't really matter if you show up to vote because, you know, Hillary's going to win anyway. And that's that type of mentality that sometimes can, you know, backfire, because then you really don't get the people's choice, because people get a little lazy and they don't show up. Plus, there's no lines out there. Voting is being handled. I already voted this morning. There was no lines at all. Everybody's very friendly. It's easy to vote.
Well, despite certain differences, it is evident that people feel very passionate about our democracy, and that is a good thing. Now, I realize that some of you will see this broadcast after the polls close, but if you're catching an early broadcast, please get out and vote. Your voice counts. Up next, I sit down with Drew Calley. He's a spiritual medium, appropriate on Election Day. He's here to talk about his unique gifts and the upcoming event that's happening at Universal Preservation Hall. And I also sit down with Marty Vanix. He's the president of the Saratoga County Prosperity Partnership. He's here to talk about economic development and an exciting summit that's happening right here in Saratoga this Thursday, November 10th. But first, if you see news happening, you want to share a story idea, how about join us for an interview? Give us a call on the hotline. The number is 798-8000. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Look Today. Well, tonight's Lookout, the last one about the election. My wife and I voted this morning, and there was really something about the temperament of the people at the polling station this morning. People are grateful for the opportunity to vote. They're in a good mood, and when they're leaving the polling station, they're talking to each other. It's just a wonderful thing to see. You know, this was the most contentious national election any of us have ever seen. And I'm a student of politics, and I've never seen anything like it. But I just want to remind you, now, some of you will see this broadcast after the polling stations close. Most of you will see it before they close at 9 p.m. So please exercise your right to vote. That makes our democracy a democracy. And one last point, I was very impressed with all of the races that we covered here personally at Look Media. All of us got a chance to know the candidates and to listen to their point of view and what they stood for. As a microcosm of democracy right here in our own region, we have a lot to be proud of. Tonight on Look TV, it's a Queensbury Town Board meeting. It's a new one. And don't forget, tune in tomorrow night for the stories that matter to you. Good night, everyone.